Yeah, this is probably going to be more like the turnout it was when I did it last time, about 10 people or something like that. I think the initial novelty's worn worn off to people probably. We'll see, we'll see.
Curious first of all.
Yeah,
Quite happy to, pleased to be able to get out of the house.
yeah. Some people are not able to get out, and some people live elsewhere, live abroad.
Yes.
Can I ask you, we're doing this reading instead of... Check it fits with...
And I have to take my mask off, obviously, to come up.
Of course, yeah. I think it seems like people are not masked this morning. Yeah. But
I think if there was anybody here that objected, we would whisk,
of course.
whisk them out
And on, do you mind just unmuting so I can ask online? Oh, I'm unmuted. Hello, everybody online.
Hello. Good morning. Shabbat shalom.
Good morning and Shabbat Shalom. I'm looking for a reader for the English of the Torah. Is there anyone? It will be shared onto the screen. And is there anyone who'd be happy to read that for us?
Rabbi,
Yes.
I believe Kevin gave it to me as I've got a York site.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. That would be wonderful for you to read that. Thank you. I'm sorry that I tried to take that off you there.
Okay.
That's fabulous. Thank you. Okay, well, we've got the reading for that. Well, in that case, is there anybody who would like to read? We've got the 3 blessings after the Torah, the community blessings. So, Rania, thank you. I've got you for...
The Queen.
For the Queen?
The government, yes, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at all. Fabulous. You can read for our English Queen.
I didn't know you actually liked doing it, Rania. I thought it was just forced upon you.
And Linda, did I see your hand was up before?
Sorry.
Did I see Linda's hand up before?
Oh, sorry, Linda.
Have I invented?
Yeah, it was, but yeah.
Yeah, would you be happy to do the State of Israel?
Okay.
Fabulous, thank you.
George wants to do it. Does George want to do the State of Israel?
No, George is... and then we'll have...
Doesn't have to be George. Often is George.
He likes doing it.
Oh, is that often George's one? Sorry, you see, I come in here, I
it's
mess
really
with the
fine,
minhag.
I think it's really...
Fabulous. And then we've got, would you do the one for health and care and all of that for us? You're looking at me? Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, no, sorry. That would be fabulous. Yours sat there smiling at me, but it's all a blur. All right, fabulous. That's that all sorted. Yeah, it's true. It's a small crowd this morning. All right, lovely stuff. Thank you.
Which service are we doing?
We're doing service 2. We can talk amongst ourselves for a few more minutes, I think. We'll give people a chance. Oh, you're wrapped up so warm.
You doing Wordle, Christine?
Sorry?
You doing Wordle?
No.
Yes, that's
I'm not sure I even understand how to do it.
I think you understand how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like playing Mastermind. Do you ever remember Mastermind?
No problem. To the membership.
Yeah.
But you never played Mastermind? It's a very simplified letter word game. You have to guess the word, and it tells you if you've got the right letter in the wrong place or the right letter
And
in
then
the
I
right
can
place.
have, and it's not that
Start off with
I then won't be like, oh,
Yeah,
come
this-
into
you-
my
the first one's
fault, but
complete
I'll talk
guess.
about
So
all
you
different
choose a
things.
completely random
Yeah,
word with 5
all
or
happens.
Exactly.
That sounds good
And
to
it's-
me.
and
I also
if
think
it's
I
the right
understand
place, it goes green.
wanting to come
The
to
right
the
letter in the wrong
meeting,
place,
but I
it goes
wonder if
yellow.
she comes to
So
a
your
meeting
next guess is based
once
on that.
discussions have already happened a little bit.
No,
No.
it's fun.
No, well, this is the first
I just thought you might like.
So she'll be on
Yeah,
Zoom anyway. But,
a lot of people are playing Birdle.
I've never been in a meeting.
Yes, I'm also playing Birdle.
Okay.
I find if you try, Birdle's considerably harder, as well as all proper words. You have some of the composer's names as
That's really
well.
nice.
On Zoom. And the thing is,
Yeah, the one that nearly foxed me was Finsey. There's so few words that have anything like that.
So,
You never get it unless you realise it's that.
but I just
But yes, that's nice.
and I'd like you to back it up really
And,
enthusiastically.
I've got your back.
If
I've
you
got your
are
back.
enthusiastic
Yeah,
about
no, it
with
makes
with
sense
Birdle,
to me.
like when you
And
get
if,
it,
if everybody
it
starts
gives you a little
objecting
comment
and
depending
gives
on how
good
many you
reasons
got
why
it in.
beyond
If
territory,
you get it in
then
like
maybe we
six,
rethink
I think
it.
it said
But
like
at the moment, it
were you
sounds
sleeping
very
during the
sensible
sermon?
to do it that way.
Quite a funny thing.
Lovely stuff. No worries at all. Thank you for organising that meeting.
Good morning, Ghazal and Aoife.
Goes.
if I
Six.
didn't do
Six
something,
goes.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Morning,
I
everybody.
am at fault because a few years back, I tried, because I'm membership secretary of Liberal, I was asked to set up a membership committee, and we had.
Good morning.
Hello.
Ambrasha.
Hello.
What's his name, this guy? Can you hear us?
Tom, are we on mute or are we? Oh, we're not on mute. Hello, everybody.
Can you mute us, please? Thank you.
Fabulous.
It's a dangerous game, this.
Nothing. And it foundered because we were tasked with too many things. We were tasked with trying to come up with some kind of PR brochure.
And I'll hear everything we say.
Morning, Ursula and Alison.
So, first of all, the membership rates were a problem.
Or Alison.
And it foundered because from sorties at the time was 12 pages.
The completion date's supposed to be of the new
But
building.
that's just how it foundered.
Yeah.
And I just got fed up with the whole thing.
Adrian's the person to ask.
So that's why I felt I had
Yeah,
to
he
step
thinks
forward and get
will
this
be
thing
May
going.
now.
Yeah,
When
it's a much smaller team
that was
and
what he
much
lost.
D-Day.
I can't remember
So
if
we've
that
got
was.
to have it done.
And most importantly, we've got you.
He thinks we'll get in to make his.
Hopefully, thank God.
Even once we get the
Hopefully,
keys
you'll
in,
still
which I
feel
think
that way.
is the suggestion. I think there's a late.
Yeah.
at least
No, I think it'll be
few
great, and
weeks
we'll
of
with all of these things.
doing
What I'm
something
loving
to
about the
it
different meetings I'm
before we
going
actually
to
start using
is
it.
that
So
even when we hit up
I
against
think that-
problems, there is a real
ask him. Yeah,
want
but
to
that's the
work
rough
through
schedule.
and find a
I
solution, which you
believe.
don't always find in, particularly with three different communities. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And he said the sound system there is so sophisticated that it's
All
going
right.
to take him a very long time to commission
Yes.
it.
Have you heard about
Amber, yes,
Morning,
I think
Maureen.
I've emailed, and we're
So that's
we're
that will be
we're just seeing who's on screen. Amber, hiya. Good to see you here. Yes, we are off
What?
mute. We're going to get started. I can see the,
something Mark would get into.
Yeah.
but we're
What's quite
we're
funny
on.
is that,
Yes,
Okay.
fabulous. So we
the idea
will.
that it'll be
I
divided
think we'll
walls, it's kind of like
get
festival
started,
space
shall we?
that it's got.
This is the first time she's come to
Mark
it.
told me that like it'd be very good acoustic
Rachel
separation.
told you she's converted to Jackie.
Let's
I've
have a
been in
conversation.
Oh, you have been?
I said I think we should get an acoustic piano.
Sorry.
And then he was like, no, it'll be too loud. They'll be able to hear
And
it.
also we're. It's all
That
good.
doesn't sound
We'll
like
chat.
acoustic separation, does it?
Okie dokie.
An acoustic piano isn't going to be any louder
Don't
than
worry.
a natural piano.
All is good.
I guess it can't be controlled by it is. I mean, I think it is. I think it is a bit louder. Anyway, they don't want to get acoustic piano, so I recommended a good people to get. Mostly because they won't be able to be put away in the cupboard.
So they don't want the
Get
old
the
one.
correct.
The old one apparently didn't belong to. It's only got to belong to an individual.
Oh, I had no idea.
That's what I was told by Adrian.
Well, I believe you. Mary never mentioned it.
Find my own correct
So
page.
it was on some sort of long-term loan. But
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom, everyone on Zoom. We're going to be doing service 2 today, which can be found on page 112. Please do stand if it's your custom to do so. I'm learning all the minhagim.
Oh, משכנותיה ישראל, מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליה יעקב, משכנותיה ישראל. ישראל, מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליה יעקב, משכנותיה ישראל. ואני תפילתי לך, אדוני את רצון, אלוהים ברוך חסדך, אלוהים ברוך חסדך, ענני באמת ישעה. מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליה יעקב, משכנותיה ישראל. מה טובו, מה טובו, אוהליה יעקב, משכנותיה ישראל, משכנותיה ישראל.
Please be seated. Eternal God, a mystery surrounds my life. What came before it and what lies beyond it are shrouded in darkness. But in the darkness is your presence, and in the mystery your love. No mind can grasp the splendor of your being, no tongue express the majesty of your works. Yet there are times when we sense a reality that is beyond our mortal sight. May this Sabbath be such a time for us. Help us to hear your voice, to find your image in our souls, and to be at peace. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tahorahi, Tahorahi. Let's try that together. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tahorahi, Tahorahi. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Neshama, Shenatata bi, Shenatata bi, Tahorahi, Tahorahi. My God, the soul you have given me is pure, for you have created and formed it and breathed it into me, and you sustain it within me. So long as there is a soul within me, I will give thanks to you, Eternal One, my God, and God of my ancestors, sovereign of all worlds, guide of every human soul. We praise you, O God, in whose hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all the flesh. Baruch she'amar v'haya ha'olam baruch hu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, המחולל בפי עמו, משובח ומפואר בלישון חסידיו ועבדיו, בשבחות ובזמרות נגדל לך ונמליכך, מלכנו יחיד ה' העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מחולל בתשבחות. And I wonder if Linda, is it right? No, I'm so sorry. Lindsay. Yes. I'm so sorry. If you'd be happy to read on page 114 at the top. Sorry.
It's confusing, I know. To you the stars of morning sing, from you their radiance bright did spring, and steadfast in their vigils, day and night, your angels, flooded with fervour, ring your praise. They teach the holy ones to bring into your house the breath of early light.
Thank you. And Hannah, I'll invite you up instead of Psalm 19. We're going to have a reading by Jacques Derrida.
I know that in praying something happens, even if there is no one God in the form of a father or mother receiving my prayer. I know that by the act of praying in the desert out of love, because I wouldn't pray otherwise, something might already be good in myself, a therapy taking place. I know that by doing this, I will not necessarily succeed, to affirm and accept something in myself that won't do any harm to anyone, especially to me. The impression that I do something good for myself or my loved ones, that's the calculation. If through this prayer I'm a little better at reconciliation, and if I give up any calculation because I cannot calculate the incalculable, I can become better.
It's a real tongue twister, that one at the end as well. We're on page 116, 116 in the middle. Please stand. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש, בשמיים ובארץ, כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, שהוא שפחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות, מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה. To 135.
Amen.
be seated. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzei or uvorei choshech, osei shalom uvorei et hakol, hame'ir la'aretz v'ledarim alea barachamim, uftuvo machadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mal'a ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, v'al me'orei or she'asita yefarucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzei Hamorot. We praise you, O God, creator of light. Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truths of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. Please stand. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, לשבתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. Please be seated.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, eternal one, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you are the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly, you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then, with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song.
שיבחו גאולים, לשבחה שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמלכו, ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם, אדוני ימלוך צור ישראל, קום
please stand as we turn to the Amidah on page 140. Oh, I'm sorry. אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע מגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועצרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיח, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני אהבה, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לו, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדשים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך כל הארץ כבודו.
כבודו מלא עולם.
ברוך כבוד אדוני
ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד לך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גל לך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לא ימוש לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גל לך, לדור
לדור נגיד גד לך, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn anew that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness and consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good.
ישמחו במלכותך, ישמחו במלכותך, שורי שבת וקוראי עונג, המקדש שביעי, המקדש שביעי, כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך, והשיר רצית בו וקידשתו, והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו. חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה, למעשה בראשית.
I wonder, George, on Zoom, if you'd be happy to read on 143, our God and God of our ancestors, for us.
Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Eternal One, let the holiness of your Shabbat enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be established by its peace. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath.
Thank you. רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל, ותפילתם באהבה תקבל, ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך. ברוך אתה אדוני, שאותך לבדך ביראה נעבוד. מודים אנחנו לך, שאתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו לעולם ועד. צור חיינו, מגן ישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות.
שים, שים, שים שלום, שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים, שים, שים שלום טובה וברכה. חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו, ועל כל ישראל עמך. שים, שים, שים שלום, שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים, שים, שים שלום טובה וברכה. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד, בעול shalom, sim shalom tova uvraha, sim shalom tova uvraha, v'tov b'necha lefarak et amha, Yisrael v'et kol ha'amim, b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. sim shalom טובה וברכה, sim shalom טובה וברכה. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
We'll continue with our own thoughts and meditations. We turn now to our Torah service that can be found on page 481, 481. It's still so novelty for me at the moment to be with an actual Torah scroll. It's really exciting. 481. Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Gadol Shamo.
Gadlul Adonai iti unaramama shamo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai Hagdula, Hagdula, V'hatiferet, V'hanei Savahod, V'hanei Savahod, Gihon Bashamayim Uvaretz, Adonai HaMamlacha v'Minaseh Lahol Larosh.
Please be seated. So this week we are reading, I'm very far away, sorry people on Zoom. This week we are reading Parashat Terumah. Terumah is the parashiot are named by the first new word in the parasha, and our first new word comes in the second verse. It is Exodus 25 verses 1 to 16 that we're reading from, and it is a long inventory, really, of what should be brought in order to make the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which is this, seems like a box with sides that will be carried on the Israelites' journey through the desert as they make it to the Promised Land. And inside this tabernacle is where the tablets will be stored. And it also says, it is where God will dwell. Make for me a tabernacle, or make for me a mikdash, and I will dwell within it. So for our jewelers or our silversmiths among us, well, that's not quite what you are, but sorry. It might be an exciting portion with all the different bits of finery that need to be brought to build the tabernacle. But it does look very similar and is probably about as readable as an IKEA flat pack instruction manual. So that's what we've got in store for us today. Just as confusing, exactly. And you hope that there's no parts missing. So I look to Paul, and who I believe you'll be doing the blessings for us as well as the English. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Whenever you're ready, take it away.
You need to unmute, Paul.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bachar banu b'kol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. And excuse me, I had the place and I seem to have lost the place, so I'm just going to go back and find it. Where have you gone? That looks about right. It must be around here. Excuse me. If I found the middle, then by definition I should find the beginning. So here we go. What's happened here? Here we go. We've got it. Okay. It's lots of repetition. That's the thing, isn't it? וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל וייחו לי תרומה מאת כל איש אשר ידבנו ליבו. תיקחו את תרומתי, וזאת התרומה אשר תיקחו מאיתם, זהב וכסף ונחושת, ותכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש ועזים ואורות עלים מאדמים ואורות תחשים ועצי שיטים שמן למאור בשמים לשמן המשחה ולכתורת הסמים אבני שועם ואבני מילואים לאפוד לחושן ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם ככל אשר אני מראה אותך את תבנית המשכן ואת תבנית כל כליו וכן תעשו ועשו ארון עצי שיטים 250 וארכו ואמה וחצי רחבו ואמה וחצי קומתו וציפית אותו זהב טהור מבית ומחוץ תציפנו ועשית אליו זה זהב סביב ויצחת לו 4 טבעות זהב ונתת על 4 פעמותיו ו2 טבעות על צלעו האחת ו2 טבעות על צלעו השנית ועשית בדי עצי שיטים וציפית אותם זהב והבאת את הבדים בטבעות על צלעות על צלעות הארון לשאת את הארון בהם בטבעות הארון יהיו הבדים לא יסורו ממנו ונתת אל הארון את העדות אשר אתן אליך.
And God spoke to Moses, saying, tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart so moves them. And these are the gifts that you shall accept from them: gold, silver and copper, blue, purple and crimson yarns, fine linens, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, dolphin skins, and acacia wood, oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil and for the aromatic incense, lapis lazuli and other stones for setting, for the ephod and for the breastpiece. And let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. Exactly as I show you, the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings, so shall you make it. They shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Overlay it with pure gold. Overlay it inside and out, and make upon it a gold moulding round about. Cast 4 gold rings for it to be attached to its 4 feet. 2 rings on one of its side walls and 2 on the other side. Make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Then insert the poles into the rings in the side walls of the ark for carrying the ark. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark, they shall not be removed from it. And deposit in the ark the tablets of the pact which I will give you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu yitzhak emet yehei olam noten b'torah chaichem. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thank you, Paul. Please stand.
Baruch shenatan Torah Elmo Yisrael B'kedushato.
Invite Alan, who will read the Haftarah for us. And you'll hear from the Haftarah, we're reading 1 Kings 5:26 to 6:7. That just like our Torah portion is a long list of materials, so too this Haftarah is a list of materials, this time another dwelling place for God, the first temple which Solomon built.
Kevin obviously thought it appropriate to give me the mitzvah of reading this Haftarah. One reason will be immediately obvious, as you'll see in a moment, but he also perhaps thought it appropriate for a retired surveyor. You'll see. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher bacha b'nviim tovim, v'ratzav v'divreihem ha'ne'emerim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai, haboher b'Torah, u'v'Moshe avdo, u'v'Yisrael amo, u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. God had given Solomon wisdom, as had been promised to him. There was a friendship between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. King Solomon imposed forced labour on all Israel. The levy came to 30,000 men. He sent them to the Lebanon in shifts of 10,000 a month. They would spend 1 month in the Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge of the forced labour. Solomon also had 70,000 porters and 80,000 quarriers in the hills, apart from Solomon's 3,300 officials who were in charge of the work and supervised the gangs doing the work. The king ordered huge blocks of choice stone to be quarried so that the foundations of the house might be laid with hewn stones. Solomon's masons, Hiram's masons, and the men of Gebal shaped them. Thus the timber and the stones for building the house were made ready. In the 480th year after the Israelites left the land of Egypt, in the month of Ziv, that is the second month, in the 4th year of his reign over Israel, Solomon began to build the house of the Eternal. The house which King Solomon built for the Eternal was 60 cubits long. A cubit was the length of the arm from the elbow to the tip of the middle finger, about 18 inches. So 60 cubits is 90 feet or 30 yards, or if you prefer, 27.5 meters. So the length, as I say, was 60 cubits, 20 cubits wide and 30 cubits high. The portico in front of the great hall of the house was 20 cubits long, along the width of the house, and 10 cubits deep to the front of the house. He made windows for the house, recessed and latticed. Against the outside wall of the house, the outside walls of the house enclosing the great hall and the shrine, he built a storage structure, and he made side chambers all around. The lowest story was 5 cubits wide, the middle one 6 cubits wide, and the third 7 cubits wide. For he had provided recesses around the outside of the house, so as not to penetrate the walls of the house. When the house was built, only finished stones cut at the quarry were used, so that no hammer or axe or any iron tool was heard in the house while it was being built. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, tzur kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'osei, ha'mdaber u'mekayem, shekol davarav emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al hanvi'im, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, likdusha v'limnucha, l'chavod u'letiferet. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, u'mevarahim otach, yitbarach shimha b'fi kol chai, tamid le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, makadesh ha'shabbat.
Thank you, Alan. I I do wonder when we're measuring using lengths of arms that you'd always have to have had the same builder, because from my elbow to the finger is a hell of a lot shorter than yours. And but there we go. Fabulous. So please do stand. And Rania, I believe you are first with our blessing for Lady Queen Elizabeth.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Amen. Janet.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Thank you. And before, Linda, before we have our final blessing, I wonder, we'll take a moment at this time to think of those who are in need of healing of the body, of the guf, or of the soul, of the nefesh. And if anyone would like to share a name of somebody who could do with a prayer for healing, please do say that name out loud. Brenda Hunt. Yes.
Ruth Eva Figo.
Ruth.
Gina Greenglass.
Gina Greenglass, thank you.
Green,
Adrian Green.
Jocelyn
Jocelyn Kenton.
Julia Lane.
Julia Lane, thank you. Does if anyone on Zoom would like to unmute and add any names?
My friend Soba, my friend Emmy, and Daniel, the father of a good friend.
And my cousin Nikki.
Infant Nikki, and for my friend Lisa McCulloch.
And my friend Sue Rose, who's in the Royal Free Hospital.
And to all of those who are unwell, we say El Narafana La, and we wish them a refuah shlema, a complete healing. And Linda, if you could please do the prayer for Israel for us.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all the inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Thank you. And I've just realised, is it the new... It's not Adar, we've just had Adar.
We just had.
Yes, there we go. I know it's the beginning of February sometime. On the bottom of page 486. God's teaching is perfect. God's word is unfailing. God's precepts are right. God's commandments are clear. God's doctrine is pure. God's guidance is true. Behold, a good doctrine has been given to you. Do not forsake it. Please be seated. In an article I read in April 2020, the author joked that the national lockdown had made everyone northern. No longer did people pass their neighbours avoiding eye contact in the street. Now they may stop and say hello. It seemed that throughout the country, neighbourhoods were banding together to know and help each other through the new and scary reality of a global pandemic. Many streets and neighbourhoods created groups to ensure those who were most vulnerable had the supplies they needed, and everyone around knew there was a neighbour to turn to. There was a sense during those early terrifying months that this was a storm we should weather together. It is no surprise that during this time of heightened stress, people chose to band together and help each other. Studies have shown that volunteering, or doing acts of kindness, do not only affect those who are receiving, but have a positive psychological impact on those who are giving to. It is found that when doing acts of kindness or acts of service, the body produces oxytocin, serotonin, and dopamine to create what is known as a helper's high. These physiological responses have been seen to act against the hormones that are produced by stress. And while I've painted a picture of love, sunshine, and harmony, we know that during this time particularly, but throughout the pandemic, people were having to make traumatic choices, causing huge amounts of stress and distress for the good of the common project of keeping everyone safe. When working with army veterans to understand PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, psychologist Jonathan Shea coined the phrase moral injury. Moral injury is the psychological distress that occurs following events that violate an individual's moral or ethical code. An example in veterans' terms could be if the soldier had killed in combat or even given a command that had caused others to kill. Symptoms of moral injury include grief, as well as guilt, remorse, shame, outrage, and despair. A person can lose trust in themselves and their moral foundations. Their relationships may be disrupted because they cannot trust others not to judge them, and they self-isolate. They may mask their inner pain with alcohol or drugs, and they can become alienated from societal norms and lash out in anger at the slightest provocation. But moral injury is not just felt when an individual acts against their own moral compass. It is also suffered, according to Jonathan Shea, as a result of leadership failure, and a betrayal of what's right by a person who holds legitimate authority in a high-stakes situation. With this definition, we are all, in one way or another, victims of moral injury. While we sadly may be well used to our politicians manipulating the truth, the difference in the news of the parties at number 10, which happened during these painful early months of the pandemic, and the damage that the news causes as a result of the moral injury that is caused, is different from those usual lies. When the news first broke, many people posted on social media platforms what they were doing that day when our leaders partied. Each one a story of difficult choices, people unvisited, socially distanced meetings, people following the rules no matter what the impact on them or their loved ones personally. In her work on moral injury, Diane Silver speaks of it as a deep soul wound that pierces a person's identity, sense of morality, and relationship with society. And the effects of moral injury can impact how individuals interact with society, and also causes spiritual harm. Chaplains and religious communities are often called upon when treating moral injury in psychological settings. As psychologist Shira Magen says, we know that healing necessarily has to happen in a much wider context, and so spiritual communities are incredibly important to bring into the conversation. We've had lots of crosstalk with chaplains. Oftentimes when people are struggling with these issues, they want to talk to their chaplains. They want to understand, like, how can I self-forgive, not only from a mental health perspective, but also from a spiritual perspective. That's why it's multidimensional. Also their communities. So they want to be able to go into their communities and feel supported and feel like they can participate. When we suffer moral injury, part of the cure comes from being accepted and supported in community. In this week's parashah, we read that all whose hearts moved them were invited to bring gifts to contribute to the building of the tabernacle, this place where God will dwell. These newly freed slaves given a task to work on together, bringing objects that were precious, practical, and sometimes fantastical, as we talked about yesterday when we looked at dolphin skins, which were possibly rainbow unicorns. That's maybe for another time. Though we cannot be responsible for the actions of our leaders or right their wrongs, while we wait for them to be held accountable, as a community, we are in a unique position to be able to be part of the healing of the moral injuries caused by the pandemic and the actions of those in charge. One of my favourite teachings on this week's parashah speaks of the cherubim, the cherubs that were placed upon the tabernacle. Renowned biblical interpreter Aviva Zonberg teaches, upon the Mishkan sat two cherubim, from the root keruv, to draw close. The two cherubim facing each other, teaching us that God is in the place where the two gazes intersect. The divine is found in connection and relationship, and through those divine encounters, we are moved and changed. In those early months of pandemic, relationships, connections, act of kindness, and community were what helped many get through. In the wake of our recent moral injury, we turn again to the strength of community. In our encounters with each other, we can be part of the process of healing those deep soul wounds. All of us whose hearts move us to be part of this community, becoming part of an antidote to the harm of moral injury and the harm moral injury has on each of us and the wider society.
בתוכם,
sanctuary for you. Me'asuli migdash v'shachanti betocham v'anaknu navareg ya be'ata
Please stand as we turn to page 520. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה יוצא בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו לאחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו. וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחתנו. And instead of the second paragraph on page 521, I've brought this meditation on the Aleinu by Rabbi Howard Cooper. He calls it, "What is Our Power?" We are the heirs of a great and gifted nation, inheritors of riches that cannot be counted. We are the descendants of a people who wrestled with the divine in order to discover the secrets of human life on earth. We are the recipients of a wisdom as deep as the ocean, as broad as the heavens, as precious as life itself. We are a people who have known both tragedy and glory, and survived both. We have been crowned with a task, and have not abandoned our duty to fulfill that task, that destiny, with every fibre of our being. This is a miracle. We speak of it with awe. We are still committed to the fulfillment of our impossible task, the repair of the world and the redemption of the one who was and is and will be hidden in creation, hidden in us, waiting to be made whole again. On that day, the eternal will become one again and known as one. V'nema v'chaya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shamo echad. Strange is our situation here upon earth. Each of us comes for a short visit, not knowing why, yet sometimes seeming to divine a purpose. From the standpoint of daily life, however, there is one thing we do know, that we are here for the sake of others, above all, for those whose smile and well-being our happiness depends, and also for the countless unknown souls with whose fate we are connected by a bond of sympathy. Many times a day I realize how much my own outer and inner life is built upon the labours of others, both living and dead, and how earnestly I must exert myself in order to give in return as much as I have received and am still receiving. That's Albert Einstein. And this week we are remembering Rita Aisbury, who's a friend of the community, Jeff Baum, the father of Jennifer Gridley, Rosalind Hart, the first wife of Paul Hart, Estelle Milner, the sister of Marie Capitelli, Sarah Rosenthal, aunt of Ursula Warner, Abraham Solomons, the father of Beryl Sontag. And if anyone else is thinking of somebody at this time, please do share their name in the room and also in the Zoom.
While we're saying Kaddish, can we think of a lady called Debbie who sadly died a week or so ago in California in her early 50s. Debbie was the daughter of Brenda Newman, who was a member of the very popular and successful youth club at Wembley in the late 50s and 1960s. And Debbie was the granddaughter of Henry and Henrietta Clifford, who were so heavily involved in the life of this synagogue in its early days.
We'll say together with all those who mourn. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'amad ivrach irutei v'yamlich machutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman karib v'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitnuman v'yitnasei, v'yithada v'yithalei v'yithalal shemei d'kusha berichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, be'amram be'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'asei shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol b'nei adam, v'imru amen. Please be seated. Who am I looking to today for? Adrian, am I looking to you for announcements today?
Was it Stephen?
Don't ask me.
Oh, Steve.
Stephen.
Steve, I'm so sorry. I'm still learning the lay of the land. Stephen, if you've got announcements for us. Thank you.
Okay, just hang on a second while I try and share my screen. Not quite there yet, but I will be. Hopefully. So that was the... Sorry, here we go. Yes, these are the events coming soon. But just before that, first of all, just to wish Paul and Ursula and Alison, who are online, long life. And secondly, to thank Rabbi Anna for her first in-post service, if you like, and a particularly important sermon, I think, on those subjects of moral injury, healing, and the community, and how we can help each other through these difficulties. So you can see that tomorrow there's also on the subject of the sort of Holocaust, there's what looks like a very interesting talk from a lady called Noreen Plen, who tells the story of her mother and father who survived the wars in Poland and Russia and endured both the woes and evils of Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler. So you can join her at 4 on Zoom, and the details are in the newsletter. There's also a gathering of the walking group on Tuesday, the February the 8th at 10 o'clock for a weekly walk. And if you need details of where that's convening, contact the Mosaic office. And also on Tuesday, but in the evening at 7 o'clock, there is a weekly class learning with one of our rabbis on Tuesday evening. And then the following day, if you can't make that one, or you want to make both, there's also a tea and Torah on Wednesday, February the 9th, which starts at 11, also led by one of our rabbis. So with that, I'll hand back to you there for any other announcements and the final hymn.
Thank you. So we'll conclude our service with Adon Olam.
Hashem Allah, b'terem kol yetzir nivra. ותשען ואירא ברוחי ולידי אדוני לי הלא יירא.
And thank you so much for that beautiful music throughout this service. Thank you. Really lovely. Oh, no, really. Fabulous. Let's Kiddush together. We'll pass around. And if anyone on Zoom has their Kiddushy things, please do grab them at this point. Oh, thank you. Oh, the melodies are amazing. Thank you.
So the few chords there can obviously enlarge the ball, but you've got to take out the things sticking into it.
Yes, well, that's it. But I think the thing with moral injury is there's such a build. People were already experiencing moral injury from the things that they had to choose between, you know, not visiting relatives or not seeing people when they were dying and things like that. So that already had an impact. And then for our leaders to not be following the same rules, it's exactly. But has everyone got here? Tom, would you like one?
No, I've offered him one.
You don't fancy the super sweet wine? Let's all sing together, and even if we can, if we fancy a cacophony of sound, everyone on Zoom can unmute as well, so we're all together. I always need my comfort blanket of the book because I just trip over all the time, as you have already experienced. So there we go. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורתם ברית עולם ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן אמן. That's all right. We'll all raise our hands up to the challah as we say Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Everyone, I'm going to tear it apart and then anyone who feels comfortable. My hands were clean, but I have been touching the Torah and stuff, so it's up. I'll leave it to personal discretion. That is true. That's true. Alan brought.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Lovely to see you all. I look forward to meeting many of you who I haven't met yet. Here we go. If anyone wants to come and help themselves to some challah, or I can. Thank And thank you. No, sorry, it's just so lovely. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom,
Sorry,
everyone.
I panicked at the end of the LA.
Shabbat shalom, Paul. Wish you long life.
Like, it's too much
Thank you.
responsibility.
Where's your accent from?
Nottingham.
Hey folks, I'm going to I think end the Zoom.
Thank you
in
for
a bit.
hosting.
That's all right.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Take care.
Enjoy the cholera and stay warm.
Yes.